Mind Garden Media Podcast in association with
Screw You, Todd
Productions. What?
Hi!
How's it going?
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
You say that every time we do one of these. We started
That-
off and the first thing you say is, oh my God, I'm so excited. It's going to be wonderful.
That's because I am excited. What are you talking about?
I don't know.
It feels like we haven't done this in like years.
We really haven't. I mean,
I
I
know.
think it's been a week and a day or two from
Hi,
last.
Vicky. I know, it has been. And it's between you with scheduling and some health issues and me with this stupid computer that I've been fighting with for weeks now. We just haven't been able to. So look, there's everybody. Hi, Martin, Tammy, Betsy's here. Vicky's with us. I'm so excited to be back. So there.
She is so excited to be back, everybody.
So excited. And I'm excited to share with everybody my love of, cemeteries and history and all that good stuff. So it's going to be a fun night.
Good. Well, and we'll be getting to that in just a bit.
Yep.
We should probably do a bit of housekeeping and kind of update everybody on what's going on and where we're going and where we've been and whether or not we're going to stick around or we're just going to fold up shop and go our separate ways. We're about a month away from that goofy one right there coming to visit. And I will be honest with you 100%. I don't know how I feel about it.
Oh, here we go again. He knows he's excited. He was giving me all the plans we're doing last night. Don't even tell fibs.
Well,
You're
we got
excited.
to keep our fingers crossed on this because nothing is for certain.
I know.
My hope is that we will go to Plainfield, Wisconsin, and see where Ed Gein lived.
Yeah,
of course, he was the
that.
murderous weirdo that made nipple belts and stuff like that.
I know.
And if you're listening and you don't know who Ed Gein is, he was basically, I guess, a serial killer. But he was mostly known for like digging up bodies and taking the skin off people and then making lampshades and various clothing articles out of them.
Yeah, he was actually the inspiration for Silence of the Lambs.
Correct. If you've ever seen that movie, he was basically the character that was getting the girls to get their skin was based loosely on Ed Gein. So,
I watched Silence of the Lambs and I thought Silence of the Lambs was a good movie, but I literally have only watched it one time. Like, I just didn't want to watch it again. And so why you ask, would you be so excited to go to Plainfield then? I just am going crazy to get out there. I want to see what I can pick up on, especially after we watch that, I guess, docu-film that Steve Shippey did with Cindy Kaza in Plainfield. And so I guess I just want to see what I can pick up there. I have my own theories of what's going on there, so it could be interesting. And you actually can, I probably shouldn't say this, but you actually can find the property. It's very easy to get the address for the property and everything.
Yeah.
And I want to go to the cemetery and all that stuff. So it's going to be really fun.
Well, that'll be fun. And then beyond that, my hope is keeping my fingers crossed on this. But hoping that we're going to go to Wisconsin Rapids, which is about 40 minutes away from where Ed Gein is from, and going to see the First Ward Schoolhouse there, which was part actually of the first Haunted State movie that I was a part of. I never actually got to go to the schoolhouse, but there's some great stories from that, and I think it'd be fun if we can get in there, but still have to get that okayed and all that kind of stuff. So
so we're keeping our fingers crossed on that, but I think that's going to be really, really fun to do, and I think we're going to have a great time. Like yesterday, I said to you yesterday, I was like, we should be there by 1 o'clock in the afternoon because we have to stop at the Cheese Castle, and on the way up from Chicago. And you're like,
she is so worried about the Cheese Castle.
I know, I am.
I realize Wisconsin's known for its cheese, but cheese is cheese, you know?
It's a castle shaped store with cheese in it. Who doesn't want to do that? Come on, Todd, you got to live, you
I'm
know?
just saying.
So he says to me yesterday, he says, okay, great. We'll walk around downtown and then we'll act stupid and we'll eat stuff until everybody comes out. And I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah.
so that Friday night, we're going to be going out in Oshkosh, and we're inviting everybody to come on out and have a good time with us. So,
Yes, anybody who wants to come out, who can come out, who lives within that radius, come out. It'll be fun. We're gonna have a
we'll
good
meet
time.
up. We'll have a couple of drinkies, and then see what the night holds for us. I think that afternoon we're going to go see a cemetery or two on Friday, but it's going to be kind of low key. Saturday will be the big day, and then Sunday, as soon as you wake up, I'm pushing you out of the city.
No,
You
you're
are
not.
required to
No,
leave.
you're not. I don't have to leave until like 8 o'clock at night.
Oh my God! I thought you guys were leaving in the morning.
No, we
Did
have
we know
all
that?
day on Sunday.
Did we know
yes.
that?
Yes, we knew that.
Did we know that, please? Okay, I don't know.
Yes, because I've only told you 4 times. So I'm excited. We'll find something fun to do. Maybe we can go to a cheese factory.
Well, I thought Sunday you were going to go like shopping outlet stores or something.
That was your idea.
No. It was not my idea. I would never go to the outlet stores.
I said you and Dave could just walk around with me and we could go shopping.
I think, Vicky, to be honest with you, I think I'm just going to put it out there. I think we're going to go to Ruby Owl
I
on Main
looked
Street.
at that page and it sounded really good. So
Yeah.
I think that would be a good one.
And then when we're done at Ruby Owl, we can walk across the street and go someplace else. And then we can have some drinks there. And then we can walk across the street and go someplace else. Because that's the way it's set up.
Fun. I know. It's going to be so much fun. And we're actually staying at a place that I'm glad I'm bringing my equipment because, hi, Brianna, because I have a feeling there's going to be some stuff in there.
I do too. I mean, I'm glad you're bringing it. Because I think that you're going to find some stuff there for sure.
I do too. It was at one point it was a home for disadvantaged people, and there was also a home for the mentally ill. So I'm sure that there will be a lot of energy in that place. So it's going to be super cool.
I think
excited.
so. Yeah, should be a lot of fun.
We're looking forward to it.
Looking forward to that. We've got one more episode of this season. Is that right? We got the episode 16.
Yep. That's coming out this Sunday, and we're going to feature Eric, one of our intuitive tarot readers. He'll be featured this week. And then we're going to, I was just telling Todd before we went live that I have already put together one of 2 bonus episodes for the in-between period, in between seasons. And I believe that the kickoff for season 3 will be that amazing live cast that we did with Holly Hughes.
Oh, my goodness.
Intuitive, just an amazing, amazing woman. And her daughter loves us and wants to know if next time Holly comes on, if she can come on. And I said, of course.
I think actually for season 3, I think our very first interview for the live cast should be Holly. I think we should welcome back that season with her. But we definitely got to get, Victoria back on as soon as possible. Sudi's got to come back. Eric has to come back. We got to get them all on as soon as possible. So
without a doubt, because everybody loves it. And I mean, I love seeing people get readings, and, I've never seen our readers be off with something. So we have a great family.
That pregnancy one, maybe, right?
That one was so funny. Oh my gosh.
So one of the things I just kind of wanted to briefly touch on was you have had quite a few instances where you're getting to go out and investigate a lot of places, libraries and churches and jail and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And I've come to the conclusion for me that when it comes to quote unquote ghost hunting, I'm kind of done with the way we know it. I don't know that I care anymore to go to a location with equipment and get excited because we got audio, or get excited because the K2 meter went off, or any of that. I will do it if somebody asks me to come and investigate their home. I will do that. I will do it. I will do it to help other people. But for me, I want to experience it the way I want to experience it, which for me now has become going, I may or may not take equipment, maybe audio, keeping it simple. And then I want to experience it from my point of view, from my person, from my, whether you want to call it third eye or intuition or, in my empathic energies or whatever. I want to experience it for me. And then that's it. I'm not going to share that information with anybody or present it in any certain way. There's not going to be a video that we might talk about it on the podcast, but I've kind of had that. My thrill of that is over only because two things. Number one, I think the TV realm has kind of pushed me away from it, meaning I don't, all these shows that have all this over the top bullshit going on makes the group of people who do this look ridiculous. That's number one. And number two, I'm not out to prove anything anymore. I want to experience it for me, from my life, from my perspective. So if somebody says, hey, I think I got something going on in my house, can you come over? Absolutely. I will do that and bring a pal along if I've got somebody. But beyond that, I'm not excited. Listen, I've never been to Alcatraz to investigate. I have no desire to go there. I've never been to all the lunatic asylums and the places with tuberculosis, and I have no interest. Here's why. Also, everybody's done it.
Yeah.
Millions of people have done it already. I don't care.
Yep.
I did get a message from somebody on my Facebook page who said, have you ever done a church during a service to see if there's any response from the Holy Spirit? That was kind of interesting to me because I don't know that we've ever had a group on TV or anywhere else do that necessarily and present that information. There might be, but I'm not aware of it. So it's for me right now. I want to enjoy that. I want to experience it in my way. That doesn't mean that you're not invited along, or my sister or whatever doesn't come along and whatever. But I'm not into all that anymore. I just don't care.
Well, honestly, I'm right there with you, and I'll tell you why. And that's why I'm happy that I'm in the group that I'm in. Because if you had asked me a year or two ago about being in a paranormal investigation group, before I realized the gifts that I have, if you had asked me that, I was all about TV. I was basing a lot of it on what I saw from TV because I didn't know any better.
Right.
So to me, it was more of the excitement of it. And in the past year and a half, ever since I've been doing investigations and I guess, I don't know, for lack of a better term, like honing my skills, it's gone from excitement to very, very personal. Each and every one of them has become extremely personal. I was on an investigation Saturday night, and I don't want to give too much away because it hasn't been announced yet. The event that we did it for, but I was in an investigation Saturday night in a place that had never been investigated before, and it was extremely personal to me because literally, my theory is that these spirits, there was a lot of residual, but there was also a lot of intelligence that I picked up on. These spirits who are in this building, they had no idea what these people were in there doing. We got very, very little scientific evidence.
Right.
But I left that investigation with so much more understanding of emotions and feelings and stories and personal stories of the people that I felt were in there. And it's become very, very personal to me. It's not, let's just go throw equipment in a room. Now, I do believe that equipment and personal feelings go hand in hand. And not everybody, and I understand this, Todd, not everybody sort of goes along with the whole idea of a medium. But I think that if you don't have both the personal experiences, the feelings, and the scientific, then you really don't have a true understanding. And there's no way that these television shows are going to convey that in the right manner. And a lot of people have that idea about it, but I'm with you. I feel very, very differently now. And I'm glad that I'm in a situation where I belong to a group with Dennis Webster and Dave, and it's just us. It's very personal. It's 3 people who are close to each other and who work well together and understand what's going on. So I'm with you. I like that intimacy. I don't think I want to go on these, and I'm not going to say that. I take that back. I would go on a bigger ghost hunt. We've joined forces with Adirondack Park Paranormal Society, Damon, Sue, the whole gang. I love them dearly, and I had a great time doing the Russia Union Church.
And I would definitely join them as well, only because I know them and I know the way that they handle their investigations.
Right. Exactly.
And so I would do it with them. But yeah.
We were at, just real quick before we get to the real topic of tonight's live, but just real quick, in 2013, we went to St. Augustine, Florida, and I had seen the St. Augustine episode of Ghost Hunters, which by far is one of my favorite shows in the paranormal. It was amazing. Unbelievable.
I remember seeing that for the first time and going, oh my God.
Yeah. That really hooked me. Like that episode really hooked me. And I said, Dave, we are going to the lighthouse. So we signed up for I think they called it the Dark of the Moon tour. And it was at like 10 o'clock at night. And I immediately was annoyed because there are 20 people in this tour, like 5 kids who can't stand still. People have K2 meters who think this is a big joke. And here's me. Dave and I are the only 2 serious people in this tour. So they take us around down at the bottom of the keeper's cottage and, give the little tour. And then they take you over to the lighthouse and give you a little tour. And then they give you about half hour, 45 minutes to just go off on your own and do your thing. Well, of course, here I am irritated. Of course, everybody immediately runs for the lighthouse because that's where a lot of the activity went on during Ghost Hunters, during the episode.
Yep.
I said, no. I said, let's go in the keeper's cottage. Dave and I were in the keeper's cottage and we had so much activity. I literally had a conversation using the K2 meter with one of the little girls who died. And I know this was one of the little girls who died because I was feeling, and I didn't really realize it fully at the time, but I was feeling this young child energy. It was frenetic in there. And it would move around the room and I'd have to chase it. And so if it wasn't for the fact that all of the not even half serious people were off in the lighthouse, I would have never had that experience.
Right.
And so that was a very personal experience for me that I was, before I even knew that I had these abilities, that I was having this interaction. So I can't put myself in situations with people who aren't serious because that's just not me now. In this stage in my life and in this stage in my understanding, I couldn't put myself in that situation at all.
We're going to move into our topic tonight. Before we do that real quick, I just want to throw this out there and kind of get the room's thoughts on it. But my sister, because of this podcast, has a whole different outlook on life and the afterlife and the current life and all that kind of stuff. And I've invited her to come on the show and share her story. And she also wanted to know if people would like to have a training session with a pendulum, how to learn how to use a pendulum.
Yes, please.
So if that's something you would like to see her teach here on the podcast, you can reach out to us and let us know either here tonight or in a private message to our Facebook page or whatever. If you're interested in that, let me know. I would love to have her on because Vicky today and Vicky 12 months ago, not the same person.
No.
Not the same person. She has really grown in her abilities and her beliefs. And, speaking of ghosts, she and I had a conversation on Saturday about, like, we call it residual energy when we talk ghosts. Those are the ghosts that apparently always do the same thing. What about the ones that we call intelligent? Is it really a ghost? Or is it an actual being on another existence plane that is on the same one we're on, but in a different time continuum, blah, blah, blah. It's an amazing thought process. So
It is.
we've
There's
already
so
got
many
people tonight
theories
saying
about it.
yes.
Yeah, I know. And you guys, what would make it even cooler? Like, I have one too, but I don't really know much at all about pendulums. So I'm really looking forward to this. But what would be really cool is if you can check on Amazon. I know they have them on Amazon and they're not expensive at all. You can grab one for like $5 off of Amazon and have it, and we'll give you enough advance warning that you can have your pendulum with you that night. And that would be super cool because we could all kind of do it together and
I
learn.
agree.
So, yeah.
All right, let's get to the topic. Hopefully we haven't we've wasted 20 minutes already, but
know.
hopefully
That's
we have
okay.
enough time for this, and we'll have
We
to see
will.
how fast you can talk. So
I'm going to try. I'm going to try really hard because you know me, when I'm passionate about
Oh,
something,
I know
talk
you.
a lot.
I know
Yeah.
you.
So anyways, so everybody knows my love of cemeteries, my love of local regional history. I love the Civil War. I'm very fascinated with the Underground Railroad. And Dave and I have a seasonal campsite about 5 minutes from a little town. Actually, it's not even a town. It's a hamlet in central New York State called Peterboro. And I've always loved this little town. You go through it, and if you blink, you miss it. It's all basically centered around sort of they call it a square, but it's really a rectangle in the middle. It's 25 miles southeast of Syracuse. Where I live now is about 40 miles east of Syracuse. So it's a little bit closer to Syracuse than me. The Hamlet of Peterboro was actually founded in 1795. Gerrit Smith's father, Peter Smith, for whom Peterboro was named, established his homestead back in 1804. It was originally Peterboro, as in Boroughh, but it was changed to its present Peterboro in 1894. Beautiful little hamlet. Absolutely love it. You can see by that picture that that's sort of the rectangle, and all the houses are sort of around it. There's a country store. The rectangle in the middle of the town has a Civil War monument, and each year during the summer for a weekend, they have a Civil War weekend. We have been there. We didn't partake in a lot of the festivities, but we were actually there and enjoyed it. And everybody has just a blast. People come from all over the place. They also have a really cute country store that, my gosh, they have just about everything there, including ice cream, and they're done that. They have food there. You can go sit outside and enjoy it. Every time we go by it, you can see people sitting out there and enjoying it. It's sort of like the town regulars.
Right.
During the 1800s, Peterboro played a huge role in the Underground Railroad, which just fascinates me. It's now the home of the National Abolition Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame is located in the building where the very first meeting of the New York State Anti-Slavery Society was held in 1835. The building itself is from 1820. It was also the home of the Madison County Children's Home for orphaned and destitute children. The children were cared for in a home in the village from 1871 to 1926. But unfortunately, and I hate when this happens, the building was razed in 1938. I really, really wish I could have seen that building. I'm sure it was just amazing.
Yeah, wouldn't you rather put your time and energy into like saving historic buildings, not only for the building portion of it, but the story that that building was a part of? I mean, to me, that would be more exciting than hearing a ghost say hello on a recorder.
History to me is so amazing. We only learn from history, and when you get rid of the buildings and the places that were part of history, you sort of lose something in that, and it just makes me so sad to know that. It's just so unbelievable that a town like this, a hamlet like this, was such a center for things like the Underground Railroad back then. The Underground Railroad, in case somebody isn't sure, was a network of secret routes and safe houses established in the U.S. during the early to mid 1800s. It was used by enslaved African Americans primarily to escape into free states and up into Canada. Now, as you can see on that map, we are along that west to east line. We are, Peterboro would be just about south, about 3/4 of the way to that line. So we are roughly 2 hours from the Canadian border where we are now. So if they made it that far, usually slavery in New York State was sort of outlawed in the early 1820s. Although if you were either born into slavery before then, or if you were what's the word I want? If you were like not an apprentice, but that kind of thing, if you were bound to someone, then you were still considered a slave. You could buy your freedom at the age of 25 in New York State. So it was still going on. So who helped these slaves? Well, usually it was white people who were abolitionists or people opposed to slavery. And sometimes free African Americans also helped them. A lot of African Americans, once they reached New York State and were free, they would stay in, thank you, Tammy, indentured. They would stay in New York State and not move on to Canada because they were fairly safe there. They were fairly safe once they made it to upstate New York. Binghamton was a big epicenter, Binghamton, New York, huge epicenter for Underground Railroad. There were a lot of Underground Railroad stops in the Binghamton area. They would cut across from Binghamton up to Peterboro and then move on to Syracuse to go north. So private homes were and churches were usually used, and they were called stations along the route. Now, that's not a house in Peterboro, but that's just an example of a station along the railroad route. Not all of them had secret rooms or tunnels. That's sort of a tale.
Right.
Some of them some of them were in barns. Some of them were in cellars or second floors of buildings. Some only had room for one or two of them, and they would have to stand in a closet, face to face with each other, but some were bigger. And some of them hid them in barns, other buildings, outhouses. Approximately 100,000 slaves escaped during this period, but millions more, unfortunately, never saw freedom. Not all of them were able to escape. It was very tricky to be able to get out of the Deep South. The Deep South, most of the slaves in the Deep South never had a chance. It was mostly Virginia, Maryland, Kentucky, sort of the border state slaves that were able to escape. Station masters, they were the homeowners, and they risked everything. By being conductors on the Underground Railroad, they risked their money, their homes, their livelihood. Therefore, there are very, very few actual records of stops on the Underground Railroad because you had to keep it secret. If people found out that you were a conductor on the Underground Railroad, you risked losing everything.
Right.
And including your life. And so today, for the most part in New York State, we can only guess or assume from word of mouth that was handed down through the generations where there was an actual stop on the railroad. Some are a little bit more clear than others. Some actually did have hidden rooms that had different ways of telling, but most of them are just assumed. They're not for sure, which to me is just amazing. The fact that you couldn't tell anybody that it was word of mouth.
Of course.
It's just clues. We can only base it off of clues. It is very well known, though, that Gerrit Smith and his family were strong abolitionists whose estate was a stop on the Underground Railroad. My belief is that they would hide the slaves either in the barn, or they also had a building next to it that they called the laundry. Both had 2 floors. And my thoughts, and I'll go into that a little bit more later, but my feelings are that that's where they probably were. So let's talk a little bit about the Gerrit Smith family, because in my eyes, Gerrit, his wife, his entire family are heroes. Gerrit Smith inherited a fortune from his dad. He made that fortune even bigger through very shrewd business dealings.
I like him just because of his beard. Look at that.
Oh my God.
That's monster.
That's a Todd beard. You were getting there. You were getting there.
I was. And the thing is, if I could and get away with it, I would have the beard. I would skip the hairdo, though. I would skip that totally.
You know, I don't want to say it like this, but men looked quite unusual back in the day.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you, but I think people in general kind of did, you know?
Yeah, I think they did. But he was hi Holly. Speak of the devil, we were just talking about Holly. Um and Holly, you will be our first episode of season 3, by the way. Love you. So
Yeah,
yes.
that's the way you find out from us. We just tell you.
We just tell you. So anyways, Gerrit erected various buildings on his estate, including a mansion. Now that's the mansion.
My goodness, that's a good looking building there. In the South, they'd say, come and sit out on the veranda and have a mint julep with us.
That is quite the mansion on the homestead. The homestead is actually, we have a few pictures towards the end, but the homestead is actually right in the middle of the Hamlet of Peterboro. You can go visit. I've been there quite a few times, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous. They've worked really hard to restore the barn and the buildings, and it's just amazing. So from this homestead, Gerrit Smith and his wife Ann Carol Fitzhugh Smith over the lives donated an estimated $8 million,
wow,
which would be more than $250 million in today's current dollars, to a spectrum of different reform causes. There it is right there. Now, that little building is not part of the estate. I have no idea. It's like the county land surveyor or something. They must have put that on there. I don't understand it, but that's the land. And I think I have some other pictures of that too. It's just beautiful. Like, it's so serene, and it's changed a lot over the years. But now that's his wife.
I mean, come on. She looks a little weird too.
They all did. For the time, we look at it now and we look kind of whack. I'm sure they'd look at us and think we were wacko.
Well, at least you.
Well, you too.
Yeah. No, not me. Not me.
So in October of 1835, Gerrit invited some 600 delegates to Peterboro to complete the first meeting of the reconstituted New York State Anti-Slavery Society at the village's Presbyterian Church. That church is now the National Abolition Hall of Fame and Museum, and it's open on Sundays, and I have to get over there on a Sunday so I can actually go through it. I haven't had a chance to do that yet. I'm just amazed at the fact that, where I walk, there were runaway slaves, and there was all of this going on. And I'll tell a little bit more about that.
When we had Christy Sumner on, and she investigates with her sisters and friends, and she made mention that when you walk in those areas and you see those buildings and you are part of that, it's hard to imagine that this stuff took place that many years ago. You're standing in a location that somebody else also stood in, It's big time.
I again, like we were talking about, it's very personal for me. Like, when I'm standing somewhere, anywhere that I go where I know that history took place, real serious history took place that made a difference in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about the people that walk there, that live there. It just is a very personal thing for me. So among other things, Gerrit Smith also resided here when he was one of the secret 6 Northern philanthropists who bankrolled John Brown's raid on Harper's Ferry. We've all heard about that in school. He actually, yes, you did.
I did not. We never talked about that. No,
really?
No. Harper's Ferry, isn't that a band from the 60s?
No.
Was that Harper's Bazaar? I think that's what it was.
I do believe Harriet Tubman was involved in that as well. So Smith was so active in the abolition movement and the Underground Railroad that African-American abolitionist Henry Highland Garnet wrote, quote, "There are yet 2 places where slaveholders cannot come, heaven and Peterboro." Frederick Douglass published this comment on the front page of his Rochester-based abolition paper, The North Star, on December 8th of 1848. Frederick Douglass, of course, the Black free abolitionist in New York State. The estate was a known stop on the Underground Railroad, and we'll talk a little bit more about what I experienced when I was there, the several times that I've gone. They're probably going to call me a stalker if I was just going
to say, they haven't asked you to leave yet? Well,
it's kind of addicting, especially when you get responses, you get things going on. So it's kind of addictive. I'm not going to lie. So Gerritt's daughter, Elizabeth Smith Miller, was an amazing woman herself. She lived on the estate with her husband for a handful of years, and eventually they moved across the street to the house on the green in Peterboro. That's Elizabeth, or Lizzie. And that the house that they moved to right there on the corner was one of two homes that Gerritt Smith would give to the couple. Now, that is a gorgeous home. I would love to be able to get into that. One of these days, I'm just going to knock on the door and say, hey,
Hello, my name is Sandy. Can I come in, please?
can I check out your house? It's absolutely beautiful, and they kept it up beautifully, too.
And those are the cops pulling up behind you. Ma'am, step away from the house.
Pretty much. I'm just this close to it now. Elizabeth was very much involved in women's suffrage.
Is that real hair or a wig?
That's a wig.
Is
And
that
was
a
friends
wig?
with both Susan B. Anthony and her cousin Elizabeth Cady Stanton. That's Elizabeth Cady Stanton.
Oh, Elizabeth has a wig on.
So not only were they abolitionists, but the whole family was involved in women's rights. And just as an aside, Susan B. Anthony actually spoke at a women's conference in my city of Utica, and I go by the building all the time, and I would give anything to be in that building, but I don't think I'll ever be able to get into it. But every time I go by, I tell Dave the same story that Susan B. Anthony spoke there. And Elizabeth is also credited, funny enough, with designing what would become known as the bloomer costume. We've all heard of bloomers. And so she actually designed the bloomers. And that sign is right next to the blue house in the Hamlet of Peterboro. So much history
she
there.
designed the bloomers?
No, that was Elizabeth Cady Stanton.
So she designed the bloomers.
Yep. She
Okay.
actually designed the bloomers. And they were called bloomers because the girl who brought them over from Europe, her last name was Bloomer.
Gotcha.
But Lizzie actually was the one who designed them. So pretty exciting stuff. The Gerritt Smith estate contains several buildings, as I said, though not the Smith Mansion, unfortunately. It burned down in 1936. The estate was named a National Historic Landmark in 2001. That's the barn. And look at those are the original square head nails. How cool is that? Yeah, I had to take a picture of the nails because I was fascinated. That's the laundry. And these have been restored. I wish I had thought to put the pictures of them before they were restored because this is just an amazing transformation. That's the laundry. They do presentations when it's open. They're only open on Sundays, but they do presentations and things like that on the land. So we'll come back to the Smith estate after we talk about the cemetery because I want to share a couple things with everybody that I experienced when I was at the Smith estate. So let's talk about the cemetery. Now, Dave and I we're so weird. We just drive
No,
around.
stop. No, he is not weird. It's not
Yes, he
we're
is.
weird. You're weird. That's what it is.
He likes doing it too. He actually had a
Does
remote,
not.
like he had to do an appearance tonight. And he texted me and he's like, I'm going to send you these pictures of the cemetery where these Revolutionary War soldiers are buried that I went past. And he gets excited about it too.
He does?
Yeah, he really does. I'm not kidding.
Okay.
He'll like the cemetery in Oshkosh too. So we were just driving around and we found the cemetery. And at first we didn't think it was any big deal. Then we realized what it was really like. So,
Do you mind if I get that? I know you're in the middle of your presentation.
For it.
Okay.
Go for it.
Hi, Sandy and Toddcast. I know, that's what I'm telling her. Can I pass along that information? Okay. See you, Dave. Bye. So that was Dave. He says that he's not into it. He just wanted to put that out there. You're the weird one, and he really does not enjoy doing it at all.
Well, he knows I'm weird, but he sort of started to join me now. He joins me on these adventures now because you can't beat him, join him, right?
Right.
So
yeah,
after
exactly.
how many years?
What is he going to do? He's got a couple of choices. He can either join you, he can divorce you, or he can start drinking heavily. So I think he probably took
he doesn't drink, so
Right.
he's probably going to be our DD on that Friday night. He's going to drive all of us home. We're renting an SUV, and so we can just pile bodies in. And we've been together like 20 years, so that's divorce is kind of out of the question, especially, now.
Yeah, because you take half of everything he's got at this point.
No, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. Well, I don't know.
Yes, you would.
No. All right, let's talk about the cemetery, though. So it's very cool. The cemetery is very cool. It was established in 1805. Notable graves include the Gerritt Smith family and several Civil War veterans and freed slaves, along with other prominent families in the Peterboro area. Gerrit Smith, when Gerrit Smith died, he and his entire family requested no big stones, no big memorials. That literally is his gravestone. And his birth and death dates are engraved on the side of the stone. That's it. They're all very nondescript. There's not much to them. I love that they put the flag there every year for him. And his wife Anne and the children are all buried around him. There's 2 rows, but there is no big monument. There's nothing out of the ordinary. And I think that's a testament. There's Lizzie. I think that's a testament to the way they lived their lives and the things that they believed in. And
boy, wouldn't it be nice if there were more people like that these days? That would be so nice, wouldn't it?
They truly are heroes to me. And both of them are inducted. Anne and Gerrit are inducted into the National Abolition Hall of Fame. So they have been inducted into it. It's pretty amazing. So but that's not the only part of the cemetery. There's 2 sections to the cemetery. There's the very old section. And then in the back, there's newer graves. And a lot of times people they get very interested in the old stuff. They don't check out the back. But if you go there and you go to the back, there are so many war veterans buried there. It is such an honor to go and check out some of the graves from, World War II, Korean War, all of them. They're there. And it's just really, really nice. I thought I mentioned that because a lot of people forget about the newer graves and the history that you can learn just from going to newer
Absolutely.
graves.
Yep.
There's an entire area right here of the cemetery when you first drive in that has unmarked graves. There are my assumption from what I understand is that they are all Black people, African Americans. I'm sure they were free, but again, even in New York State, not everyone was treated as
the same,
quote, free person.
Yeah, we still don't treat everybody the same. So
we don't. And it wasn't like they had their lives, their lives weren't amazing afterwards. They were helped a lot, but not all of them were helped a lot.
Right.
So I just want to share a couple of stories with you guys about 2 freed slaves who actually have headstones. And the reason why they have headstones is because every year, the Hamlet of Peterboro, they just did it this past weekend, but I had the investigation, so I couldn't go. I was so bummed, has an Emancipation Day. And they all gather at the Smith estate, and they walk down the road to the cemetery, and they have this huge ceremony, and they lay a wreath at Gerritt Smith's grave, and they lay wreaths at these 2 slaves' markers. The slaves did not have markers until 2017, when a very, very nice woman donated the markers to them. So now every Emancipation Day, the crowd walks down and they lay the wreaths on Maria Howard's grave. And I want to tell you guys the story of Maria Howard because it's pretty amazing. Her headstone says Maria Howard died February 17th, 1869. And it actually says, born into slavery, died a free woman. Ms. Howard's story, she died at the age of 50 at the residence of Reverend William F. Bridge, who was the last minister at the Free Church of Peterboro and at the same time, principal of the Peterboro Evans Academy. Reverend Bridge conducted Howard's funeral. She was one of 37 slaves who were owned by Elias Creswell of New Orleans and freed by Gerrit Smith in 1852. She was also one of the last of 17 who came to Peterboro and then apparently lived in other towns in the area including with the Daniel Dorrance family in Vernon, New York. Now, Vernon is only about 15 minutes from where I live here in New Hartford. So that's pretty cool. The other grave is for Thomas Jefferson Potter. He died June 17th, 1843, and his also says born into slavery, died a free man. Thomas Jefferson Potter was born a slave about 1816 in an unknown place. There were no records. So if they didn't know where they were born, nobody else knew where they were born, unfortunately. Some didn't even know how old they were. His freedom was later purchased by Nasham Goodsell of Clinton, New York. Clinton, about 5 minutes from me. That's how close to home these things can hit. And he also paid for Mr. Potter's education, which is absolutely amazing. Mr. Potter later moved to Peterboro and passed away on June 7th, 1843. His obituary confirms his attendance at Gerritt Smith's manual labor school. His funeral was conducted by the Reverend Abel Schofield. So Gerritt Smith actually had an academy or a school to teach freed slaves, to educate them on how to have skills. So that's how they're all intertwined so much. And I wish, my hope, my prayer is that someday each and every one of those unmarked graves would have a stone. I think that it's wonderful symbolism to give to Ms. Howard and Mr. Potter, but I think it would be wonderful if they could all get the respect of having a marker on their grave. There are also several Civil War veterans, including John H. Graves. He served in Company E of the 117th New York Infantry from 1862 to 1863. Patrick Rich, who served in Company F, 157th Regiment of the New York SV, and I'm not sure what that is. SV, I'm not sure. Franklin Mason, who served with Company F, 157th Regiment of NYSV, and John Hall, who served in Company B, 26th Regiment of the Colored Troops. So that in and of itself shows you that even during the Civil War, when you served with the Union Army, you were still segregated.
Yeah.
Which we all know that the Civil War wasn't really about slavery, it was about the economy, but still, it's just kind of amazing to me. So let's just show, I took some random pictures of the cemetery, just so you guys could get an idea of what it looks like. It's beautiful. That's the flagpole where they do the presentation. Right on the right where you see that mini flag is the Gerritt Smith family. That's just something I thought was really beautiful. There's some beautiful markers in this cemetery. And it's so beautiful, and I don't think it gets too many visitors when it's not Emancipation Weekend. That is my favorite one in the entire cemetery. That is in celebration of the life of William Edward Warner. Mr. Warner was a farmer in nearby Fenner, New York, and he was the father of 12 children.
Listen, the guy was busy. He was milking cows and
I'll say doing a lot of fun stuff.
If that's what you're into, I guess, right?
And I just did a quick panoramic video of the cemetery so you guys could see very, very old stones in here. Very, very old stones. It's one of my favorite cemeteries, and I go to a lot. One of my favorites that I visited. So, and it's very peaceful. It's right next to a farm. So there's no houses close by, and you can just kind of hang out there and get an idea of what it looks like. So that is the Peterboro Cemetery. That is a little bit about the Hamlet of Peterboro. And I just want to end it, and then we'll talk about my visit to the estate. But I want to end it with a quote from Gerrit Smith. "We must continue to judge slavery by what it is, and not by what you tell us it will or may be." And I love that. So that is Peterboro, New York, and the Peterboro Cemetery. I just really love the fact that I'm literally 5 minutes away from all of that history.
Well, here's the thing. I think you're right. I mean, you've talked a lot about how New York has all this history and stuff like that. I think all of us, if we took some time to learn the history of where we live, couple of weeks ago, Lisa, our good friend Lisa Hale, took me on a cemetery tour that they were having. And not only did we learn, this particular one was about leaders in the community. We found out a couple of things. A lot of people who came to this town, Oshkosh, Wisconsin, were from New York and Vermont. And but we found out a lot about some of the families. And when you drive the streets, there's certain streets, Sawyer Street and this street and that street and all this. And then you find out their involvement in the community and where they're buried and all that kind of stuff. You can find out a lot by walking outside your door and being a part of what goes on around you. Now, I'm the first person to tell you, I don't like people. I'm not going to reach out.
I know.
You know, I'm not going to hang out with people.
Right.
But I do love the history of this city and the fact that it's named after Chief Oshkosh, you know, an American Indian who, you know, was part of the Menominee tribe, I believe, who led that tribe for many, many years. And the city's named after him. Things like that, I just think of really interesting. We can all learn a little something about where we live and the ties to history and the ties to where we are as a nation today.
I totally agree. You know, Tammy said it perfectly. Be a tourist in your own town. And I say all the time, Dave's probably sick of hearing it, but people don't appreciate or understand what they literally have in their own backyard. And you can learn so much from cemeteries. There's a great website called Find a Grave. And pretty much
I love that one.
me too. I use it all the time. Because a lot of times you go to these cemeteries and you can make out one name, like a first name or a last name, and you want to know more about it. Sometimes you can get not only the full name, what it says on the gravestone, but you can also get a little background on these people as well. That's where I found out about Mr. Warner and where he was from, and that he was a farmer, that he had 12 children. It was on Find a Grave. I highly suggest, if you go check out a cemetery, that you should start there, and you can learn so much about your history, what went on in your town. It doesn't have to be incredibly historical. It can be a newer town, you know, but there's so much that goes on. Life is just unbelievably cool and amazing when you learn other people's stories.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, one of the things that I thought was really cool on the tour was we were seeing where people had gone out and cleaned off the stones, because, as you know, marble does not weather well, and it usually gets the mossy kind of stuff on it. And there's some things you can do to clean that up. And when families are gone and nobody's there to care for those graves anymore, they can get in really rough shape. And some people, to give back to the community, to give back to those folks' memory, they may not even know who they are, or they may know of them, but do not know them. Take time to take care of the gravestones. And I thought, man, now that is something that I could get into.
Sure. Because it's very personal.
Absolutely.
It's very personal. You're helping someone. I go to cemeteries, and as a matter of fact, the two slaves, the freed slaves, their stones, before I took that picture, I cleaned it off a lot because it had a whole year's worth of, you know, weeds growing up around it and things. So and it's a well-kept cemetery, but, you know, little weeds grow up and everything.
Sure.
There was something on it. I cleaned it all off, and, you know, it's a sign of respect, and it's a very personal thing. So it's just something nice to do to pay your respects. And when I go to a cemetery, what do? Each and every time, I cross myself. I say, in the name of the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit, amen, because I was born Catholic. It's just like in me now to do that. And I speak to them, and I tell them I'm here with nothing but respect. And if there's anything they want me to learn, to send me in that direction, you know. And I've learned some amazing things about our history.
So I'm going to pull up a picture that you shared.
Which one?
I just had it. This one.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about my trips to the Gerritt Smith estate. It's only open. It's open from dawn to dusk, 7 days a week. But the only time that they do any kind of talks, or that anybody is in the main house at the edge, is on Sundays, which I prefer to just go and explore. And it's a beautiful piece of ground. And there's the barn there. And then the laundry to the right. Behind it, there's running water, which I'm sure is very conducive to the activity that I experienced there. The first time I went there, Dave stayed in the car with Spike, and I just kind of walked around. And I thought to bring out my recorder on my phone. So I walked around to get a feel of the place, and it's a wonderful place. And if you're within driving distance of it, you really should go check it out. They have a whole bunch of different signs that walk you through the idea of slavery, the Gerrit Smith estate, all kinds of stuff. And so I was standing at the barn door, and I was asking for some sort of sound or noise to let me know that someone was there. And right after that, I got a thump. Now, these are well-maintained buildings, so the idea of animals scurrying around in them is probably low probability. And the sound that I heard was not, I'm pretty sure that was not an animal. You know, you can tell the difference. I grew up in the country. I know when there's an animal in a barn. I can tell.
I'm going to get a T-shirt that says, I know when it's an animal in the barn, and you're going to wear it when you come here.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not wearing that T-shirt.
Yeehaw! I know when it's an animal in the barn.
But I do. I grew up on farms. I know when there's animals in the,
Don't tell me. You did not grow up on a farm.
I did. I grew up on farms. My father worked on farms when I was a kid. Seriously.
This is the first time, and I've known her for my entire life. She's never mentioned this to me.
Yeah, I grew up on farms. And then I spent a summer on my cousin's farm, like chaining it. My big job was chaining and unchaining the cows when they would come in to get milk.
That's a big job.
Milked. Yeah, I was a kid. So anyways, so I got a thump. So I thought that was really interesting. So I was walking around, and I got to, can you pull up that picture of the laundry again?
Yeah.
For me, please? Right. So up on the top on the right, you see those two windows. And as I'm standing there, just talking, I've got my recorder going. As I'm standing there, I keep hearing this tapping on the window. And I looked all around me because, as you can see, there's not any trees like right there. But I thought maybe there's something hanging outside that's, you know, it was a little breezy that day. I thought maybe it was tapping on the window. There was nothing. I looked, I couldn't see anything, but I could definitely hear intentional tapping on the window. Again, I don't think that a squirrel is going to tap on the window at me. So as far as energy goes, it was there was some energy. You know what, Holly? I actually, my theory on this is that it may have been some of the runaway slaves. You will. I do have a thump. And so
we're going to get that on a T-shirt for it too.
Yeah, I do have a thump.
I do have a thump.
So that was my first visit. So I was very excited because I did get the thump. It was a knock.
And I heard it. You let me hear it. I heard it. Yeah. Yeah,
you could hear it. And it was definitely an answer to, let me know you're here. So I know somebody was there. So then the following weekend, because I had to come back, we went back. And this time Dave came out with me. So this time, Dave and I started at the barn, and we got this.
It says the barn now houses a large portion of an Underground Railroad exhibit. So do you see that in there at all? We have to come by sometime when it's open to see it, but we wanted to just say hello.
Dave, it was in there. It was in there. Thank you for that. Thank you for letting us know. And I don't know if everybody heard that, but there was a shh.
Let me listen to that at the very end or right before you start talking.
Just before I start talking.
Oh yeah, imagine that. She starts talking right when something good happens. Here we go. Listen again.
It says the barn now houses a large portion of an Underground Railroad exhibit. So do you see that in there at all? We have to come by sometime when it's open to see it, but we wanted to just say hello.
Dave, it was in there. It was in there.
Oh.
Yeah,
I heard that.
Yeah, now.
Wait a minute. Wait, stop.
What?
A ghost shushed you.
I don't know that they necessarily shushed me.
Oh, they did. That was in response to you.
Well,
But no, that thump was definitely inside
it
that
was louder
barn.
than the first one, and there was nothing. No animal was going to make that loud of a thump in there. It just wasn't. I mean, these are maintained buildings, and the reason I told Dave that it was in there was because he thought it was a cough, and he looked to his left to see if anybody was standing there. And I said, no, that was a thump in the barn.
And then the ghost
And-
went, shh.
And then they shushed me.
They
So
did
I
shush you.
haven't finished. I haven't cleaned up the rest of it, but I did get more audio. But one interesting thing before we wrap it up for the night, one interesting thing was after that, we went around the corner to the side of the barn, and all of a sudden I felt like this female energy. And in my mind's eye, Todd, and this is probably the first time this has ever happened to me, like in the moment, because I get a lot of things that I see before I go on an investigation and things,
Mhm.
sort of like little movies. This is the first time this ever happened to me in the moment. It looked to me like, in my mind's eye, a black woman, a small black woman, was looking around the corner of the back of the barn. And I said to Dave, Dave, there's somebody over there. She's over there. And we went over there, and I could definitely feel the energy. Like the hair on my arm stands up when I'm near energy like that. So I think that my thought process is they may have been slaves.
And we're probably interested in why you were hanging out there.
And like we've said 1,000,001 times, that they know when people are open. And so
Right.
they probably gravitate towards people who are more open. So Gerrit Smith estate, I'm still going through some of the audio, cleaning it up and stuff, but once I get some more stuff ready, I'll let everybody hear it. It's pretty exciting. So I'm going to go back. We're going to go back again.
Of course you will. Dave doesn't have a choice.
No, and they know me now, so it's exciting.
Those poor sons of bitches.
I know. So anyways, thank
Run
you
for your
everybody
lives,
for
ghosts.
letting me give you that little history lesson about Peterboro. I was really excited to be able to do it because I just love history.
Well, very good. Very nice little presentation. And there were plenty of nice pictures, which was very nice. And you laid it out very nicely for me so I could easily follow you and show the pictures as they came through. So.
Number one, that's because I love you. And number two, that's because I'm anal retentive. So there you go.
See.
Yeah.
I see. What else we got to say? Otherwise we got to go. It's already after 8 o'clock.
Yeah, I know.
For
We kept everybody long enough, for Christ's sakes. Not too much. Just we're hoping to do a live again very soon now that we got the audio issues straightened out. Fingers crossed. And you're feeling good tonight. And
well, so take a little pill that, let me just say this.
Do what you got to do.
Let me just say this, Dr. House. That's all I'm going to say. If that means anything to you, then you know what I'm talking about.
Oh my gosh. So listen for our last episode of season 2 audio cast this Sunday. I'm so proud of us. We did it. We got through it.
It is.
What?
Our last one is Eric, right?
Oh, well, yeah. We're going to be visiting with Eric, which I'm excited about. And then we have 2 bonus episodes for the following 2 weeks. And then we begin season 3 with our one and only Holly Hughes that we love dearly.
And again, if you'd love to see my sister Vicky,
yes,
give a session on how to use a pendulum, please let us know.
Yes, please do.
I'm going to put her on the spot just a little bit and say this. She is very, very gifted. And I think she will be honest with you if you asked her that this podcast is what gave her the opportunity to finally learn and know herself and not think I'm crazy and not think that what we see in front of us is all there is. So she's very, very gifted. And there are times that I'm a little jealous of that because it's like, well, why does she get all the good stuff? And I'm just sitting here with a headache all my life.
But you have gifts too that you haven't really explored yet. You know that.
Just keep them away.
You know that.
At any rate, I would love to have her on and tell her story because she was, I'm not saying she was totally anti this, but she was a complete 180 on the other side of things. So.
And don't forget also that, like I said, you can get them for like $5 on Amazon, or you can find them, I'm sure, locally and grab one. And then you'll be ready to go when Vicky does her little master class.
Yeah. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to that. So anything else that you want to say, or should we let these fine young people get to bed on this Wednesday night?
just thank you guys so much for everything and for being patient with us and loving us and supporting us. And we have some fun stuff coming your way very, very soon.
Can I do that one thing one more time? That remember that whole animated picture thing?
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh my God. I can't right now.
We'll leave it at that.
All right.
Until we see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.